Hi guys, I'm going to present to you today our fourth activity for Steamposium. Um, if you remember, STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Mathematics. Today I'm going to be doing an art project inspired by an artist called Vincent van Gogh. So who was Vincent van Gogh? Vincent van Gogh was born on March 30th, 1853 in Zundert, Netherlands. His father was a minister. He had two brothers and three sisters. His favorite brother was named Theo. Vincent had many different jobs before he became an artist. He was a teacher and a minister and worked in a bookstore. He loved to draw as a child, and when he was around 27 years old, he decided to become an artist. When he first started drawing and painting, he used pencils, charcoal, and oil paints. He liked to use dark colors like black, brown, and green. Many of his drawings and paintings were of people at work. They're very dark pictures, so some of them looked sad and dreary. No one wanted to buy Van Gogh's paintings. He would write letters to his brother Theo, who lived in Paris, and ask him for help. Theo told him about a new style of painting called Impressionism. Vincent decided to move to Paris and try this new style. He started painting scenes of people in the streets and cafes. He also started using bright colored paints. He loved the brighter colors and the light of the sun. In 1889, Van Gogh became sick and could not take care of himself. He had to go into a hospital, but he was able to continue painting. He painted every day. He liked to paint trees and paintings with swirling colors. He did not get better while he was in the hospital. He died on July 29, 1890. Van Gogh was not famous when he was alive. Now he is one of the most famous artists in the whole world. No one wanted to buy his paintings when he was alive. Now everyone loves his paintings, and they are worth millions of dollars. Here's a quick art video on Van Gogh.
Hey! What are you gonna paint, Maddie?
That, Dada.
Huh? You're gonna paint the flowers? The tree? The fence! Yes, the fence could use painting. It's peeling.
Very funny, Dada. I'm painting the garden. The whole garden. All the beautiful flowers, the fence, the trees, the sky, everything. It's going to be big and fantastic. Oh!
Ow! Getting wet.
Oh.
I know what you can paint indoors. Flowers!
But, Dada, I wanted to paint something big and exciting. Not just flowers.
I just saw a painting of some flowers in a book. They were by a great artist. Let me show you.
Okay, sure. Show me.
Wow! Great! Let's go!
Dada, I meant show me in the book.
Oh.
Huh?
Where are we, Dada?
I'm not completely sure. I'll get you an umbrella. Yee-hee!
Great. Now, who are we looking for?
Well, yes. The painting in the book was by, I'm not sure, Vincent. Someone named Vincent.
Vincent van Gogh? The great, great artist?
Oh, that could be his name.
I don't see him anywhere. Everyone's gone inside from the rain. Where do you think he is?
He was supposed to be right where we landed. Somewhere.
Hey, Dada, a paintbrush. Now where? Another paintbrush. It's bigger. Look, a small paintbrush.
Oh.
All my paintbrush is gone? Huh?
Excuse me, but are these yours?
Thank you. I thought I lost them. I cannot afford to buy more. I'd like to give you a reward, but I have no money. Would you like some bread and cheese?
Thank you, Mr. Van Gogh.
Call me Vincent. I'm so glad you found them. What a relief.
Oh, what a beautiful painting.
I call it Terrace of a Cafe at Night.
It's night, yeah, but the colors are so bright.
The excitement I feel painting, I want the person looking at the painting to also feel.
I think I can feel it too. When I look at it really closely, it's like I'm there, really standing in the street.
Garçon, un espresso for me, s'il vous plaît.
It feels like we're in the painting.
I wanted the colors to be vibrant, even though it was night. See? The yellow, the blue, the green.
And all the different brushstrokes everywhere. Thick and big in the sky and small down on the cobblestone in front.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Ooh, that's terrific.
It's called the olive trees.
Wow, it's super nice. It looks like everything is moving in it.
Ooh, it excites the eyes. Everything moving.
And the clouds are like when the wind blows. The wind also blows the trees, like when I was painting it.
Vincent, your paintings feel so real and alive.
No matter what I'm painting, if it's a farmer's field, a portrait, a bowl of fruit, or a church, I want everything to feel alive. But not that alive.
Ta-da! The window! I got it!
Where did it go?
The door!
Hey! Turn on the lights! I can't see! I get. Oh! Oh! That was fantastic fun!
So what will you paint next, Vincent?
I was going to paint a wheat field, but it started raining. So I was going to paint those. Sunflowers are wonderful to paint, even when it's not raining.
Yes, of course, your sunflower paintings. They're famous.
Really?
Yeah, sunflowers. Wow, I want to paint some too.
I can get you sunflowers.
Thank you, Vincent. I love your paintings. That was fun. Vincent van Gogh was such a great painter. It's amazing.
Hey, Maddie, it stopped raining. You can paint outside now.
I want to do a painting inside first. Vincent would like that. And ta-da! Look, I'm finished.
You did it, Maddie! Exciting and special! Yeah, we can go outside now. I see trees blowing in the wind. Wouldn't it be more exciting to go paint something outside?
Yeah, as soon as I finish another painting.
Okay, so that was a little bit about Vincent van Gogh. The next one is a fictional story called Katie and the Starry Night. It's a very cute story about a little girl in a museum seeing some of Vincent's work.
Katie and the Starry Night by James Mayhew. Katie and Grandma loved to go on trips together. Sometimes, for a treat, Grandma took Katie to the art gallery. One day, they went to see some paintings by Vincent van Gogh. Katie's favorite was called The Starry Night. "It looks magical," she said, "like a dream." "Talking of dreams," said Grandma, "I could do with a nap." Katie looked more closely at the picture. The stars seemed to be moving. Grandma was almost asleep, so Katie quietly climbed through the picture frame and into the painting. The dazzling stars sparkled and swirled. They looked close enough to touch. So Katy reached out and grasped one. I must show Grandma, she said, putting the star safely in her pocket. Jumping back into the gallery, Katy saw some other stars twirling after her. Perhaps they want to play, she laughed, jumping up to catch them, but she couldn't quite reach. I need something to stand on, said Katy. She saw a picture called Vincent's chair. That's perfect, she smiled. Katy quickly dragged the chair out of the picture as more and more stars tumbled into the gallery. But even standing on the chair, Katy couldn't reach all the stars, and some floated into another picture called Noon. She decided to chase after them, and so climbed through the frame. A young couple were napping in the shade on a hot summer's day. The stars tumbled into the sky, and night soon fell upon the countryside. The woman, whose name was Marie, woke up. "Oh, look at all the stars," she said. "Surely they don't belong in this painting." No," said Katy. "Would you help me catch them?" Climbing up the haystack, Katy and Marie had a wonderful time jumping to catch the stars and landing in the soft hay. But when they jumped back into the gallery, the spinning stars slipped through their fingers once again. "We must get them back in their painting before the gallery guard sees they're missing," said Marie. But even Marie wasn't tall enough to catch them. "Look, there's a ladder," said Katy, spotting a picture called the Olive Grove. She quickly clambered through the frame. Women were gathering olives from a tree. "Please, can I borrow your ladder?" asked Katy. "I have to catch some stars." The ladies laughed. "Ma chérie, you cannot catch stars." "You can with a ladder," said Katy. "Come and help me." They all raced back into the gallery, and the olive pickers held the ladder steady as Katy climbed up to catch the twirling stars. It was tricky work because the stars wouldn't keep still. The more Katy tried to catch them, the more they spun away. The stars were drifting toward another painting called Fishing Boats on the Beach. "Come on, we must catch them," said Marie. They all climbed inside. In the picture, the stars were caught on a breeze and twirled out to sea. "How will we reach them now?" asked Marie. "Let's take a boat," said Katy. "Oh yes, a boat ride," said the olive pickers, giggling. They sailed across the sea as the stars sparkled in the sky. "Oh, what shall we do?" worried Marie. "The stars are so high." Katy saw a big fishing net in the boat. "Let's try this," she said. They all threw the net as high as they could, and caught the stars. "At last," said Katy as everyone cheered. Back in the gallery, they all quickly ran to the Starry Night picture. "Now we can put the stars back before the guard finds out," said Katy. They threw the stars into the sky, but it didn't look quite right. "What's that in your pocket, Katy?" asked Marie. "My star," said Katy. "I wanted to show it to Grandma." "But it might float away again," said Marie. "Put it in the Starry Night, and then you can see it whenever you want." So Katy threw the star up into the painting. "Thank you, everyone," said Katy. "We did it." "And now we must return to our pictures, too," said Marie. "Au revoir, ma chérie." "Goodbye," called Katy. Katy put the chair back where it belonged, just in time as the gallery guard came past. "Phew," said Katy. "Hello." "Good afternoon," he said. And then Grandma woke up. "Oh, I must have nodded off," she said. "I had a lovely dream about stars." Katy giggled. That night, Katy and Grandma looked out of the window. It was a beautiful starry night. "The stars look almost alive," said Grandma. "Perhaps they are," laughed Katy. Grandma smiled. "Perhaps," she said. "Good night, Katy."
So here are some of his famous paintings. He liked to paint flowers. So one is called Poppy Flowers and the other is Sunflowers. He did many pictures of different kinds of flowers, a lot of sunflowers. The bedroom, that was a picture that he did of his bedroom in Arles. And then Starry Night, one of his most famous paintings. So today for your activity, you're going to need to gather the following materials: a sheet of 8.5 by 11 white paper or white construction paper, one 8.5 by 11 black sheet of paper or black construction paper. You're going to need a yellow, blue, and white crayon. You're going to need some watercolor paint or blue paint that has extra water added to it. You're going to need a paintbrush, scissors, and glue. Your optional item is a pencil. You may need a pencil. You're also going to need water for your watercolor if you use watercolor. Here are the directions. There's some videos that follow that are going to help you through each step, but using the yellow and white crayons, you're going to design a background of your painting. That'll include swirls of yellow and white and a yellow moon and some stars, and then put blue dashes throughout the background. I'm going to show you that in a minute, and blue swirls too. Using the blue watercolor or watered down blue paint, you're going to wash over the background with the blue color, and then you're going to let it dry. And then you're going to cut a black foreground picture to design a landscape that will extend across the bottom third of your paper. You may do a hilly landscape, a landscape with houses, forest landscape, or even buildings as your landscape. You may want to draw the foreground design before you cut it. That's the option where you're going to need your pencil. And then you glue the foreground to the bottom third of your painting. And I'm going to show that in each step here. So my first video is gathering the materials. Okay guys, so first we're going to start with the materials you need to do this art project. You're going to need a piece of white construction paper. You're going to need a piece of black construction paper. You're going to need a pair of scissors. You're going to need a white and blue and yellow crayon. You're going to need a pencil. You could use watercolor paint, or you can also use watered down blue paint. The only color I'm going to be using today is the blue. You're going to need a small bowl with water in it if you decide to use this kind of paint. If you do use other paint, you're going to have to use the water to water it down. And you're also going to need glue. So the first thing you need to do after you pause this video and stop this video is to gather the materials you need for this project. Okay. So here is the start of doing your painting. Okay, for the first step of the project, you're going to be making what's called the background. The background is meant to look like our picture of Starry Night. So you're going to turn it so that it's close to you here. You're going to do a landscape picture. You're going to start with some background colors with your crayons. Now this is going to be what's called a crayon resist. So once you paint over the top of this crayon, the wax resists the paint and water, and you will still see the crayon on the other side of it. So once you paint over it, it's not going to ruin it. Now on Starry Night, they had a bunch of swirls and on top of it. And you can see in my computer here, which I have a computer base that is based on Vincent van Gogh's art. But it has a bunch of swirls like this of white and yellow. It also has a moon, and they call this stars, but it really is just circles. So what we're going to start with today is we're going to start with a few little swirls for our background. Now to start that, you make what looks like a little bit of a C. Start with a C like this. Now that C is going to be extended a little bit more into a spiral shape. So I'm going to extend my C going this direction and kind of bring it across my paper. You can even create a little swirl like this if you want to. So I have one swirl there that's yellow. You could also make another swirl going underneath it, make another C. And you can make other little lines. It doesn't have to be swirls exactly like that with curlies on the end, but you can make lines going all the way across if you want to. You want to to make a design that looks kind of cool. Also, at some place you're going to be putting a moon. Now with a moon, you can put it on either side if you want to. On his painting, I believe it's on the right-hand side. You make another, what looks like a C, except this time it's going to be a crescent moon. It's going to be a little bit bigger. So you can make the crescent moon here, and you can fill that in as well too. Color it with your yellow crayon. There's also little dots going across if you want to do some dashes that can go with this as well too, along your swirls. I'm going to be doing other different colors here in a minute, but we're starting with just yellow. Do little dashes. Okay. So now I'm going to use some white crayon as well too. Now, the bottom third of this, you're not really going to see. So you can decorate the bottom third if you want to. I'm choosing not to, but you can decorate the whole thing for when you wash over it. Now, the white, oh, I forgot stars. They call these little stars. So I'm going to do a star here. It's just a little dot, and then it has little dashed lines going around it. So I forgot to do some of my stars here. I think I'll do a star over here. A little star over here. I'm going to do the same thing with the white, but the white is a little bit different than the yellow. You can see this yellow. White, you're not going to be able to see very well, so you have to be careful that you don't go over your yellow lines when you're using your white. But again, you can do some swirls. If I start with a C here, and then I go around, maybe even around my star here, and come around. Now you can't really see the white, but when you paint over it, you're definitely going to see it. So be careful that you're still kind of keeping track of where you put your white swirls. So I think I'll put a little swirl here of white going through this yellow. Maybe I'll do a swirl here. Maybe another little swirl over here. Another one going around this star. Now your design is up to you. You can add whatever you want to this. It's your design. I think I want to do some white stars too, but I got to be careful where I put my white stars. So I think I'll put a star here with little dashes around it. Again, it's really hard to see that white. You're not going to see it until you get to the painting part. I'll put a little star over here in white with little dashes around it. Okay. So I've got some white and I've got some yellow. So now we're also going to do a little bit of blue. You can see blue inside there too. When we do the wash, you'll see some of that. So I'm just going to do a couple little lines of blue. You can also do the dashed lines if you want to. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the way that I have it here. My next step is going to be to do my wash across here. And that you can use with watercolor paint, or again, like I said, you could use just watered down paint. And you're going to want to do your background in blue. So I am going to go ahead and use my blue coloring. And what you're going to notice is as I go over the crayon, it's what's called a crayon resist again. It'll go over the crayon, but it won't go on top of it. So as I go through with my blue, you're going to see the yellow coming through, and I want to use probably a little more water than that. I want to make it pretty watery because the picture is kind of dark. And you don't have to worry about getting it in other areas here. Again, the yellow is going to show through as you begin painting. All right, I'm going to fast forward through this part. When you're done at the end, you can kind of see how it turned out. So if I go fairly quickly, you'll see that I painted the whole painting here. Okay, and here's the next step. All right, your next step is to take your black piece of paper and you're going to design your foreground. Now, in the foreground of this picture, you can see a tree. You can also see some buildings. You can see some rolling hills. Now, you have to decide what you want. It doesn't have to be exactly like his painting. So you could do a foreground that's just hilly. You could do a foreground that has pictures of houses on it if you want. You can your design is up to you. It doesn't have to look exactly like his painting. Now, my suggestion would be to take a pencil to sketch out what you think you want to write on there. So for instance, if I wanted to do rolling hills, I would take about the bottom third of this piece of paper to design my foreground. So I think I want some rolling hills. So I'm going to do a little hill across this way. Now, thinking of my rolling hills, I'm not going to cut out every single part of this. In a second, I'm going to draw something else to go into my foreground, and I'm going to end up cutting around it. It's just going to be like a shadow on there. So I think I want to have some kind of tree too, or maybe more than one tree. So I'm going to draw a tree. There's my tree, and maybe I'll do another tree. Again, there was only one tree in the original picture, which is fine. And maybe I want to draw a village like they have in the original picture. So I can draw a house on top of this. But again, it's important that we cut around the outside of it, and I'll show you that in a second. But a plain house with a triangle on top and a square on the bottom is fine. You could draw houses. I've seen in other scholars' art before where they did a building background, like a city landscape, which is fine too. Your design is up to you. I'm going to do 2 houses here as my foreground. Now, when I cut, I'm not going to want to cut going across this way because then I'm going to cut off all my trees and my houses. I'm going to cut and I'm going to stop here and then I'm going to go around. So now I need to cut going across, and I want it to go from one side of the paper to the other. That'll become important later. So I'm going to turn this and I'm going to start cutting it. Now again, I got to the house, so I'm going to go up through the house. And it might be kind of hard to tell that it's a house once we turn this around, but you're going to want to also, when you cut it, make sure that you put the side that has the pencil markings towards your painting so that you don't see the pencil markings in the end. Now I'm going to go around and do my tree. Now, I'm not doing exactly like my outline, but I'm trying to make it as close as I can. Go around the outside. This part is not important, so I can cut that off. I just want my foreground. I got a little bit of a slanted tree. And I don't want to cut the stump off the tree, so I have to go around it. And I'm going to go around my other tree here. It may matter if you make little mistakes here because you're going to end up turning it over. Okay, so now I have my foreground, 2 trees and 2 houses. When my painting is done drying, I'm going to put a little bit of glue on here and flip it over. So it'll end up that my trees are actually on the right and my houses are on the left, which is fine. You just want a landscape going from one side to the other. So I'm going to pause it, and then when my painting is dry, I'm going to show you the next step. Okay, so on the last video, it's going to show you the final product. I had the entire background already painted, and then I'm going to add the foreground to it. Okay, your last step is to take your foreground, which was a black piece of paper you just cut out, and you may not be able to see these markings, but my pencil markings are here. You want to put the glue on the side that has the pencil markings. You could use Elmer's glue. You could also use glue stick. Glue stick tends to fall off a little bit, but you want to make sure that you're getting the edges of things so that make sure that your tree gets glued down in your house and so forth. So I'm going to add some Elmer's glue to this. Make sure that I'm paying close attention to the edges here so that that all gets glued on my paper. You're going to want your paper to fully dry before you add this to it. Put a little bit on the inside too. So nice helping of glue there, but not too much. You don't want it to be gloopy. So I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to add it to my background. So if I flip it over and I add it to my background, you will have your final painting. So here is your Vincent van Gogh inspired art. You have your foreground that looks kind of the same. You can put whatever kind of background you want. And then my moon is covered by my tree, but something inspired by this artist, Vincent van Gogh. Looks a little bit like it with the swirls here. Thank you for joining us. Bye.